We just started.
No, we're just waiting for the, for them to tell me if they're ready.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Oh.
Yeah, that's ready. I didn't hear the owls. We're ready.
You ready? Notice is hereby given that a regular council meeting of the town of Laguna Vista, Texas will be held on Tuesday, the 9th day of November, 2021 at 6 p.m. at City Hall located at 122 Fernandez Street in Laguna Vista. Meeting is hereby called to order. Please rise for the invocation. Dear Lord, thank you that we can be gathered here today. As I pray for your blessing over the city and everybody that serves here, our officers and our fire department, and all our staff. Lord, I pray for your blessings on us and for wisdom and discernment for this meeting. And I pray for your blessing on this country, Father, that we can only go forward and upwards. In Jesus' name, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. On our roll call,
Councilmember Carter,
his son has a noticeable in Houston, and he was admitted for emergency
Councilmember,
allergy reaction. Sorry, I couldn't.
okay, Councilmember Howard.
Here.
Councilmember Tolan. Here. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Worrell.
Here.
Councilmember Digglebell.
No, she
Yes.
did. Does she have an excuse?
She's out of town.
She's out.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry about that.
So she has an excuse?
She has an excuse.
Okay. I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Carter and Mr. DeBayo.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor made by the mayor, seconded by Mr. Gonzalez.
Councilmember Howard.
Yes.
Councilmember Tolan.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Worrell.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. Motion passes. Open forum. At this time, the audience is allowed 5 minutes per person to address the council on any topic. There is no discussion or formal action taken during this agenda item. The speaker must identify themselves before speaking and present their report. We have one request by Mr. Mark Moran. This is going to discuss the upcoming project on the corner of FM 510 and 100. Mr. Moran.
Good evening, everyone, for your time. My name is Mark Moran. I just wanted to come out and somewhat introduce myself. We've been working on the project on the corner of 510 and 100. And we finally were able to close the property itself, but I don't know, it would take 3-4 weeks ago. So we're definitely excited to be part of the community. We are currently working on other preliminary plans. We are taking some of the staff members, I guess you could say, from the city, kind of taking their advice. We definitely want to make sure that that we include the city, we incorporate what the city stands for in our plan. So we're definitely very excited about the project. We're very in the early stages right now. I'll probably be seeing a lot of your faces, I would think. As we move forward, I guess you can send the project. I'll be here if there's any questions. But again, right now it's just early stages. I just wanted to come by and introduce myself, let you know that we are going to start the project on the corner of 510 and 100.
Somebody's looking for names.
Yeah, so we are looking for some names. That's kind of been, that's being tossed up back and forth with the group. Street names. We haven't been able to nail down the name of the subdivision yet. So we submitted all the preliminary without the name at this point. But you know the city better than we do. For us, it's definitely development. We want to be part of it because we also want to build our homes there. So we definitely want to make sure that, that we do a good job, because we're also going to be, living there. So definitely open for any questions. 'Cause I can only give so much right now because we're so preliminary, but definitely open for any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by and
Very exciting.
we're excited for this development. Thank you. New business, discussion, consideration, and possible action. The first item is a presentation to Officer Robong's children and to honor Officer Noah. So Ms. Mireles and her children, Ava and Noah, can come forward, please. We have a little something for you guys.
So you guys, don't be shy.
Hi. We all wanted to know, since Noah served the city of Laguna Vista so honorably, we wanted each child to have a badge from Laguna Vista with his name on it. We got a thin blue line flag for each of y'all. We all signed it. And we got a challenge coin that on the front, it has Officer Noah Ryan LeBlanc with his badge number 903 and the watch date with remember my name. And the significance of this is, y'all might be too young to understand right now, but your mom will remember, is that each officer is going to carry this in their pocket. Okay, and as y'all get older, you have an extended family here. And whatever it may be, whether it's homework help, or you need a ride to band, football, all you have to do is call this police department and someone will go pick y'all up. And we want to thank y'all for your daddy's service. Okay, so, and we're gonna carry it too, so we all remember. All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you, guys. Reach out anytime, okay? If you guys want to go, you're welcome to go, but if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay.
They got things to do there.
Thank you.
Thank you for the officers for coming as well.
Thank you.
Love you.
Bye.
Thank you, Shears. That was nice. Item B. Laguna Madre Water District. Charles is here, Charles Ortiz, to present to us what they've been doing with the tax one. And Mr. Calderon, hi, I didn't see you. How are you?
Good evening.
Speaking.
Doing well here. Mayor Smith and council members, I just want to thank you for letting us be here today and give you an update on the 2020 bonds that were approved. We're getting somewhere slowly but surely. We tried to, yours? Okay. Try to move forward as fast as we could, but one of the Texas Water Board loans that we're supposed to look into were not approved. So we have to go to the open market and get things going to expedite the project. Charles Ortiz, Carlos Galvan, the Laguna Water District, and then Charles Ortiz, he's our engineer, and he has updated information for you.
All right. Okay, so I guess I'll sit here and manage the slides, but about a year ago, November 3rd, we had our bond election with about a 70% approval. A big part of that was the capital bond planning committee was a big support. It was nice to see the numbers as favorable as they were to get this approval. So basically, about a year from the approval, we're getting close to basically. There we go. Okay, so it's a recap of our 3 projects. But what got approved was water distribution system improvements, which is mainly the Laguna Boulevard and the Causeway area on South Padre Island. Due to the, various incidents where we've had water outages there, we're trying to resolve just to improve the circulation on the base side of the island. Our water plant number 1, we need to upgrade that to microfiltration, similar to what we've already done here in Laguna Vista, completed the work here in 2015, trying to get that similar work done over in Port Isabel. And then also putting a new elevated storage tank in Port Isabel, that's twice the size of the existing one in Port Isabel. And it'll help combine both the existing tanks in Laguna Vista and Port Isabel into one new tank over on Woody's Lane. And so basically, just on the distribution, where we're at right now, it's advertised out for bid. We'll be receiving bids November 17th. And we're looking at doing an 8-inch loop on Laguna Boulevard, all the way from the south end of Marisol up to Georgia Ruth on the west side of Laguna Boulevard. And also this bypass line on the Causeway to the AP substation from the foot of the bridge. And that'll help resolve some of the bottlenecks in the system and do some pressure improvements. And then we're just replacing valves throughout the system as well, just getting our distribution, upgraded where it needs to be for the next 20 years or so. And this is the recap. Basically, the new 8-inch water line loop, but we'll upgrade the 2-inch lines on the west side of Laguna Boulevard. And they're also gonna have valves for isolations to reduce service disruptions in the area as well. And so going on to the water plant, and we have our 2 water plants. The 8 million gallons per day is here in Laguna Vista. Our plant in water plant 1, we're trying in Port Isabel, we're trying to get that back up to 5 million gallons per day, which will be done through this project. And so right now we have clarifiers that are currently under construction. They're looking at being completed in February of next year. And then we had the kickoff for the design meeting for the microfiltration filters, which that'll be starting up. Actually, it's already started up here from September 2021. And we're looking at that project continuing design for the next year, followed by 18 months of construction. And so coming into elevated storage tank, Port Isabel is offline due to corrosion, and then the Laguna Vista tank is kind of small, so it has a minimal beneficial use. So we're looking at getting a 600,000 gallon tank to replace both. And so that's the plan as well. So I guess one other thing is the way the easement's dedicated for the water tower in Laguna Vista is it's based on the water tower being there. And we also have a sewer lift station in that same spot. So we might have to address the right of way since that lift station will remain in service as the tank gets decommissioned. So we'll probably have to address the way the easement's dedicated.
Yeah, come see us and let's put that on an agenda, I'm sure.
Yeah,
of course.
so it's just one of those we'll have to straighten out.
That's something we have to address as part of this.
And then again, we're looking at the new 600,000 gallon tank scheduled for design completion in July 2022 with 15 months of construction for completion there. So we're looking at awarding the water lines at Laguna Boulevard on the island December 2021. Contract time is 210 days for substantial completion. So we're hoping to finish that work by July or August, having the water mains in place. And that's basically the other part of it is getting our money in the bank. So our bond application report, we're submitting that to a district's review team at Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. We actually submitted that report October 25th, and it was declared administratively complete November 1st. So we're able to go through a 45-day expedited review to get that approved. And we're looking at closing on our bonds in February of next year. So, we're pretty much staying on schedule from the original plan from the election, even though we're doing open market versus state funding, but we're still getting it done. So that's basically where we're at.
Oh, this is exciting to hear. I was wondering how it's going. So I'm happy to hear that you guys are plugging away.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back and give you some more updates as time goes by, maybe another 4 months or 5 months. We'll come back and see you guys again
That's
and
exciting.
see what happens between now and then. I'm pretty sure that some of the things will be completed by then, by February, mostly the streets up in the pipelines in South Padre. Where we had all the congestion of all kinds of water lines, sewer lines, electrical lines, and then cables, all kinds of cables. They were all congested in that area. That's why we had to move it towards the west side of the Highway 100 there. So again, we'll come back and see you guys again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job, you guys. Any questions for Mr. Oban?
You have any questions? Good to see you all.
Good to see you guys. Thank you for bringing this information to us. It's good to hear.
Welcome.
It's crucial updates, as we all know, so it's exciting. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Item C, can we move item D again, since Aaron is waiting, if that's okay with everybody? The fifth annual Do It by the Bay Duathlon, consideration and possible action to co-sponsor the fifth annual Do It by the Bay Duathlon scheduled January 30, 2022. And Karen, what is here?
You're fine, right? Yeah. Camera.
Yeah. Seems like I was just here presenting for the fourth annual, but we're proposing the fifth annual duathlon, Do It by the Bay. And what that consists of is an adult race and a child race. And it's a run, bike, run. And so we do use the park, and we do have support from the police department and fire department. And there is a blocking off the beach between Saunders and Fernandez for that period of the morning. So we're just proposing that, can we hold the event on January 30th? And would we have the support from the council to do that? Are there any questions about the event?
Any questions for Karen? I just want to say thank you for bringing this to us. You bring such a spark to this community with all the activities, and this is, a lot of people love this event, and a lot of people compete, and everybody's eager to be out. And I know you had a rough year, and I respect so much that you just keep on keeping on.
Thank you. And I invite you all to sign up and register. for it.
Participate.
So yeah, this week I'll put it online. We'll get it out there and make sure the city has
And
it.
it's very organized.
Yes, I have a good
Very
shirt,
nice.
so.
So just to be sure, Karen, that's for the park use, for the officers, for to block off the streets.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that's on the list. I make a motion to approve the fifth annual Do It by the Bay duathlon. Motion on the floor made by the mayor, seconded by Mr. Gonzalez to approve the Do It by the Bay duathlon. Anna?
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Tolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Worrell?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Karen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Let us know if you need
Yeah,
anything
you
else.
just like-
Thank you.
Item C, financial reports. Review of monthly financial reports. Mr. Mason.
Yes, you received the copies of the financial reports. Everything seems to be okay. It's been a month already for our first year, so that's been great. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Is there any big concerns or any big flags or anything that you would like to point out to us?
I haven't seen any. Everybody's been keeping with their budget. There hasn't been any major.
Any questions from the council? Moving on. Thank you, Mr. Mesa.
You want?
Item E, EMT paramedic cross training, consideration and possible action on EMT and paramedic training. We had this on the agenda last month due to our distance from a police, from a hospital and a ER facility. So we voted to the council to discuss possibly cross-training our police officers as EMT. So the council asked the chief to go back and gather some more information for us. And Chief, would you like to say something? Because you just see.
I went back, there was some question, last meeting, there were some questions about the overtime, how much it would cost and whatnot. So we went back and the training will be 43 hours to each officer. Okay. The overtime, those 43 hours of training is converted to a total of $8,751. The course is $1,500 per officer. And Asked about a salary increase, and medium in between is $7,000. Equipment for materials and materials, bugs, etc., is $2,400, which is for a grand total of, to get this program going, $80,000. $80,651. And one of the biggest difference between, I don't know if it's in y'all's, but one of the biggest deals, the comparison for EMT and emergency medical responders. The main difference is we're not going to go on the ambulance to the hospital. We will take care, it elevates our care we can do. We still will have to work within the medical director's guidelines for liability issues. And so this first aid, splinting, respiratory emergencies, we already do that. Response to diabetic shock. We can actually, now it's usually we can test them for diabetes. Let's say in coma, test them for diabetic. We can test them there. Here we, mainly when people are in diabetic coma or getting ready to go, we just ask them to give them some orange juice, a little sugar. And that's it, what we do now, but now you will actually be able to test them on the spot. That's the difference. Respond to patients in shock, which we kind of want to do that now, and take and document vital signs. So like if the EMT or paramedic show up and we're telling them, well, they had vital signs, we took the blood pressure. Right now, they're gonna go, yeah, right, whatever. Okay, because it's really out of our scope. But we'll be able to do a little bit higher qualifications medical than we do now, but it's very close. I want y'all to know that because a lot of money, we're very close on what we're doing now. We usually don't respond. The EMTs will have a larger set advanced skills and are able to administer additional emergency medications. We won't be able to do that as the EMR, and they're trained to transport and stabilize and have ongoing assessments done on the way to the hospital. We will only have to be able to assess them here as an EMR, which is, and that's it. And because being that we're across, we're not going to the hospital anyway. We've got to stay behind. Also, this course does meet or exceeds the National Emergency Medical Service Education Standards for emergency medical responders throughout the nation. So this goes back to someone gets certified in this and someone's retained. This goes back to retention also because it's a national certification. And and every 2 years, it won't stop. Every 2 years, officers will have to get recertified, take a test, take a class, 8-hour course, and take a test to keep the license going.
You're done. I have a question, Chief. So from what you're saying, what you guys can already do, the difference is, what's the differences? So you will be able to treat the diabetic emergency
Yes, which we
and
can-
test for a diabetic, like which you
If they're in
typically can, but now you
Yeah.
can test for it.
as if they're in, let's say they're in diabetic coma, they're out. We're gonna vital signs and we're gonna sit there and wait for them. But when it deals, we'll make a quick scan of the room, we find diabetic medicines, whatever the case may be, or we know that they're in diabetic shock. Here, we will be actually,
You can
prick the
test.
finger, find the blood, you're at 47, it's too low, passed out.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be,
So that's the one thing,
which we can't do that right now.
yeah, but that's the one thing that you would be able to do,
Yes. And splint,
but you do that anyway.
immobilize, we can do that. I mean, just, hey, you got a broken leg, don't move.
Yeah,
It's kind of, yeah, I did a little more search on this and it's pretty, and we're all certified to do the AED already. We all went to the class.
mhm,
So it's kind of, provide lymphocysts, You know, I didn't know you had to be, actually, I didn't know you had to be an MR to do that. We've been doing it, you know, the assist throughout.
What is
The fire department does that, I think.
Yeah, the fire department does that, or
What is
we
the
do it. If we got two officers working, you know, and no, it's
Somebody
like
falls.
someone falls out of their wheelchair or falls in the
That's
shower or whatever, out of bed, whatever the case may be. We get a lot of those calls.
Yeah.
We've been doing it, so.
So Chief, you sound a little, to me, my assumption, what I'm hearing from you is that you're not sure if it's worth it. Is that, am I assessing that correctly?
I mean, if the community, we're willing to do it if the community, I just want you to understand, because like I said, it's $80,000. That, it's $80,000. If the community feels better about it, us, as your servants, are willing to get certified and make the community feel better about it. We're willing to do it. I mean, it leaves us, it gives us a little bit more, but we still have to follow with it. And then while we're talking about this, we still have to follow the guidelines of our medical director. Like, for instance, we have a doctor who's a volunteer fireman, right?
Dr. O'Meara?
He has to stay under the guidelines of Dr. Uribe. Okay, he cannot, you know, just because he might be do big surgeries every day to fix something, but when he goes on a call, he can't do that. He has to stay within those guidelines or he puts the city at a liability,
Yes,
which is the same thing.
Ms. Howard.
Were you able to survey how many officers were interested in getting this, in the certification, or no?
All of them,
All of them, they're interested.
they already said, we've had a sit down meeting, y'all willing to do this, and they said they all are willing to do it.
Ms. Howard.
I don't know how else to put this, but in the end, 2 years from now, are there gonna be people alive in this community that wouldn't be alive if you hadn't done this?
Good. People
Are you
alive.
gonna save lives?
What
This is taking this course, gonna save somebody's life in this community
Versus what you can do
Possibly.
right now.
Possibly,
versus what we're doing right now.
Possibly.
There's a chance.
possibly. Possibly. I mean,
Well, you
Yeah,
got-
it's
how
like some
else do
people
you
get-
answer though?
I know y'all get the calls and stuff and a lot of times about, hey, this happened or this happened or it's 30 minutes, and a lot of the facts, I haven't really, no, I don't know the facts. I can go to the, when a question was, we go to talk, we find out everything, and in some cases, and there's been several cases here and they're gonna visit it. It wouldn't matter that the ambulance got there within 15 seconds. That's just the way it is. So when you're saying possibly not. I mean, I don't know.
In probability.
Yeah, I mean,
your
the probability, I mean,
Is, I can't ask for a definitive, obviously.
Yeah.
But, it's like when I was pitching for getting a boat. I was convinced that down the road, there's gonna be people alive that wouldn't. have been
Right,
if we didn't
and
have
that
boats.
is true. We have used both cities. So,
So there's,
but I mean, on our end, whether you're having a hard, I mean, we're more like, let's say, okay, our hearts, I don't know how to. our hearts, and you're taking a seat, okay, let me check your blood pressure. Hey, your blood pressure's high. When we get there and say, wow, you're like, oh, and fall over, we're gonna get the AED and we're gonna apply it. Which way we do that? And then while you're having that, I mean, we're just gonna be, okay, take it easy, but what should we do? I mean, it's
and that's not gonna change all that much.
No.
no, I don't think so. Just not gonna say. I don't think so. Just from the research I did and I did research from the different communities, I mean, it's helpful in small communities. It's very helpful in small communities. I mean, there are some good points, only, maybe there's a bunch of good points with the different communities. There's only 3 in Texas. There's several in California. You can look at it this way where people say, oh, you're doing that because the police department don't have nothing else to do, And that's not really the case. We're busy on both sides, but I mean, you have a bunch of dedicated individuals who are willing to do this and it helps the citizens in any way, shape or form,
Question.
Ms. Howard.
Above the EMR is the EMT.
EMT.
There's no grade in the middle. There's no other one in the middle. Okay, so it just goes to the next.
Yeah, take that. Over that, and the deal is with the EMT, we can, I'm sorry, EMR, we can do it here, 43 hours. It's gonna be more expensive with the EMT, and for your assessing, the quick assessment for right there on the scene, so what we'd be doing, the continued assessment on the way to the hospital, we're never gonna do that. We will never, we've done it, most of the time, if someone's that bad, they'll ask us to drive the ambulance, and we'll drive the ambulance to the hospital. And then we'll send a unit over to pick them up later, just because they need both of them, or depending on what they have on the bus, they might need help, so we drive it, and then they need two working on it, and they're the ones who do the assessment, we will never do that assessment anyway. With the ambulance.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion?
Another question. Chief, isn't there possibly another benefit to the officers themselves and the department, and then ultimately the community in this, in that providing them this additional training is something that could, it's a benefit to them, it's good for their morale. It improves their education, as all training does.
Yes.
And then one could argue that it could glue them to the organization for some period of time vis-a-vis the training aspect and the salary increase, right? So one of the things we talked about last month was the challenge that we face with our officers and all the police departments facing in our community, and probably the nation, where we lose our officers, and I don't mean just we in the Vista, but all of the cities lose our officers from time to time to other communities for a variety of reasons, one of which is salary, right? We talked about this, it's a challenge. You put a lot of effort into training, on the job training, you personally, your officers, right? And your leaders, your sergeants, your commander, right? Put a lot of effort into on the job training with your officers. And then you lose them and then you have to start over, right? So there's a cost. We all know, anybody who runs a business or an organization or has been a leader knows there's a cost to turnover, right? So
Yeah, it's a big cost. When
Right.
you lose someone, it's a big cost. Turnover is a big cost. Uniforms, you can't find the same uniforms, bulletproof vests,
right,
carriers.
training, all of it, right? So where I'm going with this is, I think there's a larger aspect we need to look at, which is for $80,000, which is really a drop in the bucket. Because there's an agenda item coming up here in a minute where we're gonna look at some things we could spend some of our money on. I think we ought to look at the larger picture of this investment, which can be very beneficial to our community. I mean, we're gonna put 8 people through 43 hours of medical training. And I would argue that I think there's going to be some significant benefit that is going to come out of it. There has to be. And on top of that, there's going to be a significant increase in the morale in the department in terms of the training they're going to get from it, the confidence it's going to instill in them. And let's not forget the $7,000 increase they're going to get. They're not going to forget that. They're not going to forget the community that gave that to them. That's just my thought.
I wasn't saying there's not a benefit.
Oh, no, I know you weren't. I know you weren't. I'm just adding that.
There's a benefit.
I'm just
It's
adding the
it's
benefit to
sad.
the officers themselves, and therefore to you as the police chief, to the department, and then therefore to our city and the community as a result. You know what I mean? Building up from the officer themselves, that's all I'm saying. Medical training aside is what I'm trying to say. Is that fair, chief? I mean, is that a fair argument?
Well, just in response to that, this training, and I'm not saying this is a reason not to do it, but this training is gonna make them more valuable and more susceptible to being pulled away to other communities that are going to pay them more. So I would argue that we're gonna invest in this training, make them more valuable, and it's gonna benefit some other community down the road because they'll be willing to pay them more money. That at least can pay them. I mean, I know there's an agenda item coming up later this evening about PD pay, and I had some thoughts about that, but I don't think that Laguna Vista could ever outbid
Brownsville or,
Oh, no.
you know, somebody like that that's got, and we're going to create, I mean, our officers do a wonderful job as it is. And with training that we fund, we're gonna make them more desirable to other communities. And I'm not saying it's not a reason, that's a reason not to do it, but I just think it's something we should consider.
That is possible as well. This gives us an opportunity to compensate them in a way that is meaningful and I would say warranted, possibly deserving, you know, in a way that they, I think, will remember. And we'll take away some value from it, I guess. But very valid too as well, sir. I completely agree.
And we're gonna, you know, so we're gonna discuss PD pay later. so.
Well, and that was not the agenda item I was referring to. for the
I know,
record.
I know. what you're
It was
talking
the,
about. I know what you're
the
talking
funds from the, yes.
Well, I think the main concern I have is that the reason I brought this agenda item to the table was to create a significant improvement to our community, a significant difference. And I'm all for extra training and always supporting our officers, but I'm not sure if this warrants, as the chief himself said too, the difference, it sounds like to me the difference in this training is not significant to what they already can. And I'm not sure, I mean, if there was a significant training level difference, and it sounds like basically the only one thing would be to be able to test for diabetic shock and other of what they already do. So I'm not sure if this cost to the city justifies. As much as I want, I mean, this was my agenda item, as much as I want to do this, you know, I'm just not sure if this justifies it. So
I have a comment.
Mr. Howard.
It would be interesting to know, like, if we could do partial department as opposed to the whole department, so that you could at least get your feet wet with the training, see how it went, test it out, so we're not indebted to $80,000, just more so like, okay, let's get the catalyst going with additional training and see how that goes and get some feedback from those officers, and then if it justifies the additional training, then maybe consider it for the second round of it.
We'll get a couple.
Like
extra
break it up, yeah.
I thought of that too, and I think that's a great suggestion, maybe, if everybody would agree with that. The problem with that is though, if these guys are not, you know, they work in shifts and in cycles, so whenever you're in a situation where one of these guys are not on shift, you know, it's kind of redundant, because you have a situation that, but again, it brings us back to the training is not that much of a difference, so you know what I'm saying? You know, even if there's a call and the two guys, the people that's got called for this didn't receive the training, then what help is it to them?
Right.
What help is it
Would
to
you,
them?
Chief, would you be able to get an overview of the curriculum that they're going to endure, like for 43 hours to see like, okay, they already know that's like,
Yeah, some of the CPR first
Yeah, that's what
diabetes, and a lot of the EMT stuff is will take longer, and that's $3,500 per student. And then it would take longer also, because to do that, you have to go
away.
do practicals, like Harlingen, Brown, assess, you know, one of those we were talking about, assess patients, so you have to go there, assess patients and do the practicals all at different times.
Recertifications.
And, yeah, I don't know if that's practical, oh, I got my practical today and I got mine over here and this guy's off and this guy's on vacation, doing some of his kids, and then who's gonna watch the city? So that's what makes it a little difficult for the, and then, like I said, that, I mean, these tests, there are no gimmies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no gimmies, and when it goes, you can look at it online and do it, but I just, over the years, in my experience, cops need to be set down and a guy in front of them telling them what to do. Or not telling them what to do, but teaching them. Teaching them is, you know, computer's not gonna do it for them.
Mr. Well,
I'm kind of viewing this 80,000 as the salary increase at 56 and then the training at 24. Okay, because we're gonna talk about salary increase later in this meeting. Okay, so I would, I mean, I feel like the salary increase is one issue and the training is $24,000, not $80,000, because
Yeah, I see what you're saying, that's so. remember-
I feel like this is a discussion we're gonna have later.
Yeah, just
And
remember, if some of the officers don't pass the exam, they won't be qualified, so then. So I kind of feel it is a separate discussion. Just FYI. But I see what you're saying.
well, we'll talk about that later.
I think we should, I would love to have more council members present. I think this is, unless somebody wants to make a motion, but, I feel like we're kind of at a bit of a draw here. I think if we have 2 more council members input, we can maybe make an even better decision and have a little bit better, of it, especially on something as important as this.
Is time sensitive?
Sure. No,
No, we didn't have a class. We don't have a class whenever.
so I'll make a motion to table it for the December meeting. Second?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor made by the mayor to table this item till the December meeting. Seconded by Mr. Wall. I think I heard you first. Alan?
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Tolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Worrell.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, motion passes. Item F, ARP funds, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding use of the ARP funds and the CARE funds put on the table by me and Mr. Tolan. So as you all know, we've received $184,700 from the CARES Act. And we used that to pay salaries.
Yes.
So then we were allocated 2 more funds. As you guys can read there, one for $693,000 and change, and one for $787,000 and change. We have received $393,979 so far. And that's in our bank. That's physically in our possession.
The 380, yes.
I personally don't like to spend money that I don't have, so I would focus on
Just on
that
the
first
300.
amount.
Right.
So,
That's just to let you know what's allocated, what's good.
yeah, so we essentially have this money. There are several things that we can use this money for, and there are several things we cannot use this money for. Mr. Lin, you, in your agenda item, you put it down very clearly there and summarize it very well. Let me just go through that. Support public health expenditures, for example, any COVID mitigation efforts like medical expenses, healthcare, public safety, anything relating to public safety, or if you can draw a line to it somehow, you can make it work. I mean, I even heard that if you want to build another building and call that an EOC or an emergency center, you can make that, you can do that. Address negative economic impacts, harms to worker, household, small businesses, whatnot. I think some cities are using that to give their staff bonuses. We've already talked about that a little bit. Replace lost public sector revenue. Provide premium pay for essential workers. That's another one that you can use that money for. I also know that because this was so heavily debated by us personally, was you can use it for infrastructure improvements, specifically sewage and flooding. Sewage drain, running, no, not sewage, I'm sorry, drainage and runoff and flooding. So that's another thing. So, any discussion?
I send everyone a copy of what Grants Work sent us, that there's a bill out there to change what you could use the funds for. I'll give you another copy so you can.
Yeah, did you email that?
I emailed everybody.
No, I didn't see that, sorry. There's also a wish list provided by the staff,
Yes. I have a wish list too.
but it's like a Santa list.
Yeah.
While we're looking at this, something I personally was thinking about for a while, since this is kind of the really wonderful opportunity to do some great things in our city was, as you all know, I've been greatly concerned about the flooding and the drainage issue in this area surrounding the city running into the marina. It's destroying the seawall, is falling apart. There's sinkholes forming everywhere. That's something I would like to consider, that we should look at using that for. There's some infrastructure, sorry, I have no too much. There's some infrastructure that I was thinking for the city. Park infrastructure upgrades. Those are things I had. Any discussion from the council, of course? Mr. Wall.
It seems like every time we bring it up, any kind of money that we get, the grant tends to be off limits. Off limits for this.
Not if you, I mean, if we talk about it as the drainage issue that comes from the city, we talk to the judge, the county about that. And so if you pull that in, that all ties together, it's the flooding and the drainage that comes from the city that's not done correctly, that's eventually running into the marina, that is destroying the seawall.
Exactly what happened.
And it's what's happening. And that's just running freely into the very sensitive bay. So, yes, I think from what I understand,
Well, I mean,
of course, we'll have to make sure about that. But
yeah, well, this community has, I mean, that's a jewel in the community, and it attracts people to the community and the community utilizes it. And
it's one
if there's anything we can do to bring it back, I think we should attempt to, because it's just, it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be an easy fix. We can't get grants. We can't, because the way we've decided to utilize that property, it's very limited what we can, do with grant finance. And so if there's an opportunity, I would love for us to explore it, make sure we can do it correctly and legally.
I totally agree. No, as usual, as I've told you guys before, usually when I think of things to fix in the city, I go down a list of importance. We all have wish lists and dreams of things we want to do in this. Gosh, I wish I had $10 million to do all this, right? And we want to, but I've used this analogy before. There's no point in buying new shoes if we don't have clothes on. If you can't afford your water bill, why are you buying a pair of $1,000 shoes? It's that typical thing. If you go down the list of what really needs attention, and so my humble opinion, that is something that really needs attention. Some of our infrastructure in our parks too. The drainage in this whole park, that it's ankle breakers everywhere. There's some sinkholes forming. There's some infrastructure issues I feel in the city that really needs to be addressed, and that's just my humble opinion. To start with, this could excuse me, this could be quite a chunk of money, and this is not the final discussion today, of course. This is a long discussion. Well, yes, Crystal.
Based on the workshop that I attended on this topic at TML, all of this equipment is, and Ellen, you may have had it in mind, but based on what they talked about and the attorneys that were there from TML, all of the equipment, as long as it's new, is valid under this act.
I went through this list and almost everything on here
It
we would
is,
be able
it
to.
is. And assuming, and I'm not saying we would make a decision on this tonight, but just at a high level, if we got all the money we were allocated, which they sort of indicated, if you were allocated it, you're gonna get it, it's just under $1.5 million. And if we spent every dime on this page, which I'm not saying we would,
We're
then
halfway.
we still have 700,000, just under $700,000 left. So we have a lot of money to spend. And again, I'm not saying we would spend it all. I'm
No,
just
but
saying we
there's
have a
a
lot of
very
room to
valid
work with
point. Yeah, that's a
to
very
get some of
valid
these
point.
things done. I would like to see as we've discussed before, Ed, if you could go back and work with your staff and prioritize this, I think this is a really great start. And I really am proud of you all for having this conversation and coming up with these ideas. I think this is great. And if you can prioritize some of them, like what would be the top couple things in each department?
Okay.
What do you all think about that? Do you think that's the
No,
right
I
next
was
step?
actually gonna say the same thing. It's a great idea.
Okay.
And actually, I would like to see all of it prioritized
Inside the department or something?
as a whole.
The whole.
Right, as a whole,
And
right?
yeah, that's maybe something you would have to do because, you know, each department, of course, is
Of
gonna
course, get there.
fight for their department. But I love what you said, that even if we do everything on here, we still will have $700,000 left. So that's kind of exciting, I think. It's very
It's very
exciting.
exciting.
But again, I don't want to spend money we don't have yet. You know, things in the
Yeah, of
government
course.
changes all the time. And it's very fluid. I think that's the best word I can use. So again,
Right.
so right now, I would personally like to look just at the 393,000. Another thing that I want to say is that we can go out to ask the county for some of their money. Because they got a big chunk of money too. And I was thinking to write them and say, hey, we're willing to, and this drainage and flooding issue that we have here that's affecting our seawall with the sinkholes, we're willing to put in this much if they can match that or double match that. So that won't take so much of our money. We can do that as well.
May I ask you another question?
Of course.
Chief, may I ask you a question? I'm curious about, just because of the size of it, and it looks interesting, this police dispatch console kit. I'm very interested in that. Does that mean, what is that? Does that mean that we would be able to dispatch ourselves, or how does that work?
Yes,
Really?
own radio station for own dispatch.
Chief, explain more. You can explain this to me. Explain to the council how,
Yeah, could you talk
why
about
that would be so significant.
Because unlike, I mean, we don't have a tire pump, we will have our own 911 system. Mr. Mesa, CEO of the city, goes to rather than we get the console, Mr. Mesa has, CEO of the city goes to 911, then we have our own 911 system. So when we get our own line in, and same thing like 4 days ago, and people call 911, it's gonna come to
Right, Joe?
Buena Vista.
What happens right now? Maybe say, what happens right now? Explain that. You should explain that to me. Because right now, when somebody calls 911, what happens?
Goes to 4 days ago for the police, to Los Fresnos for the ambulance. And then if the ambulance call goes here to 4 days ago, it's a second, it's a flip of the switch, and they send it to Los Fresnos, and then they come. So everything would be
But it's
controlled
still
here.
a waste of time, right?
Now?
It's still a waste of time, a little bit of precious time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a flip or a confusion or whatever. I mean,
You've also explained something to me before that if somebody, because we have so many people that live here that snowbirds, so their cell phone numbers, area codes are not 956. So I've heard something, so when they call
What
from
I-
say a 210 number, something else happens there too. It doesn't necessarily.
one of the deals is what I figured out is depending on the prefix of your cell phone number, and it's usually the newer numbers coming out. Let's say people move here from
New York.
New York, right? And they get a new cell number here with that area code. So we finally figured out some people moved here from California right here on Taylor. And we got called, but we didn't get called. We're like, what's going on? Well, the cell, that prefix now is controlling whatever the prefix, whatever it is, 572-222 is controlling whether it goes to the counties. So now we got calls going to the county,
Okay.
then to Los Fresnos, the county, then to Port Isabel for police. So it's
It's
Just
taking
kind
too
of a-
long to round.
a circle of
And then-
like going around to get here. Because I'm like, well, we haven't had a problem with that. And now, the good news, which I didn't say earlier, our new radios are in,
Right.
and we had to reprogram today. So we actually have Los Fresnos scanning EMS. So we hear it, the call comes in, Port Isabel don't call us, we hear it, we go anyway. So that's good news.
So this will, so for example, this will save a minute or two, which is in a big emergency, that's a lot.
I mean, and it just, you know, we have our own 911, so, you know, people who are registered to live here and Laguna Vista, the 911 goes there.
So
Instead
what
of
about
ca-
the cell phone prefixes? Say the 570, will that still come to
It
this?
should be
dispatch?
here because we're here, because it's gonna read, in other words, if they were reading as county, okay, not Brownsville, not Harlingen, and we're gonna just reading county, the call's gonna go to the county, you know, on a cell phone. Now, some of it is too, is, you know, figure out how to do this, be a millionaire, I'll figure it out, but to control the cell towers, you
Yeah,
know,
not
I don't know
really.
how to do that, but it would isolate more directly to that 911 system. And then it might be us going, okay, then us flipping it to Los Fresnos to get faster, having our own person, well, getting that comes with the cost of having a dispatcher.
What is the other benefits, other than saving time of this system?
That is everything, we do everything ourselves, our own academy, we don't pay for Isabel dispatch anymore, they're our own people now. Our own people watching over us, they're gonna take our call, our dispatch is gonna take our call before, hey, not tell us to be quiet and wait for their officer to do the call, take care of their call.
Mhm.
And I mean, you know, which I'm not calling it bad, it's understanding, that's their officers, and we're gonna have someone watching out over our community. It's get paid, has more interest in our community.
I
than
do-
the-
Just one more question. Do we need a dispatch officer
This,
permanent? So we would need another position.
Three.
3 more positions. Why
least.
3? Because of the of this, it's a. shift.
24 hours. And then time off, and then we'll get an officer cross-trained, where sometimes we can spit in for them. I was actually thinking there's a little corner here in the PD, it's pretty crowded, but I think we'll do it, if we were able to get this console, we would put them at the fire station. Because that way the dispatcher's there, they have a microwave, everything, bathroom, where they can say, you know, most dispatchers go, hey, 10-7 is busy. You know, when I hear that, I know that they're going to the bathroom, they don't do anything when they go to the bathroom, you know? They come back and if they get fixing dinner, they can do control everything right there, here,
Wow, interesting.
and then 911 calls go here.
And then we're paying 25,000 for support as well, for dispatch.
dispatch.
So it does away with the need for the contract, right?
Mr.
No.
Moore.
It does away with the
That
need
was
for
my
the
question,
contract.
Yeah, paying that right now, and, yeah, that's what we're paying right now.
Thank
The
you, Chief.
contract, yearly contract.
Good stuff. Any more questions? Is that right?
Went up also because,
50, right?
well, we split it,
With
because it's more like,
Medical.
I remember it's like 32 because medical, because we split it, because, remember we got the police department and then you got the fire department. So I'm trying to, don't have my calculator, but yeah, it's about more like 35. Together, they get paid for their communications, police department pays for their-
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. That's good stuff. Thank you. Any other questions for Chief?
Thank you very much.
I wanna point out another item that I found very interesting was the hot jet back and jet system under Public Works. It's another big line item. But we've having, since we've had all this flooding issues, Mr. Mesa was explaining to me, that's that machine that you, with the spinning nozzle that you put into the culverts under the driveways, that it just blasts it open, super fast, super
And then it
efficient.
can also pump out too, so. we can
And it
pump
also
out the-
pumps. So just FYI, that's.
So like a
that's-
vacuum truck, is that what that is basically?
I don't exactly understand.
Almost
I
like a
think it
vacuum.
sucks
And then it has
and
this
puts in
machine,
its tank.
yeah, and it pushes
And it
water in
pushes.
and out. It's a really an interesting system.
Okay.
And it has all the permission to do that. And the gentleman, Willie brought him from TML.
Yeah.
So he came and did a little
Explain.
demonstration. Yeah. So it was very impressive.
And then the riding mower, is that like a tractor shredder kind of thing?
So wonderful.
Yeah, that's just new stuff. I would suggest the council, Mr. Mesa, go and prioritize this list even better, but I think we each individually really need to go do our homework. As a council member, and really look into each of these things yourself. And yes.
Did we ever resolve the problem we had during the freeze when we had an issue of communicating with each other?
Yes. That was part of the new system that Chief got with all the radios. to the radios that you just got, chief, that was gonna help with communication if we have another freeze situation where we lost communication.
That,
Yes, there is. some help.
so that's all said, we don't need any additional parts for that or anything.
No, we got it, got the radios, got special adapters for our cars, keep it charged, keep our radios charged. So that,
So even if we
Or
lose-
hurricane, both times.
Even if we
Yeah.
all lose all electricity, all cell phone
We're fine.
towers, everything, they
We're
can all
good.
communicate. Good question.
I don't know where you are at in your all that, so as you're talking about prioritize, what I do is on that list, is breathing, I don't know, it's breathing, to fill up air tanks for the fire department.
Yes, what is that?
Okay, what that is to fill up the air tanks they have on their backs when they go in the fires. And the one we have is, probably should be breathing that air. It's 40 years old, can't find the parts.
You've talked about this about 4 years ago. I
Yeah, I've
remember.
told you all about it before, and, you know, that's probably a big priority to have the firemen, they will have their, probably. should
But
be
right
doing
now, we fill it somewhere else. What did you say? We fill it, did we fill it with this?
it. Right now, we feel that Chief Waters has his own personal.
Oh,
so
Chief
we-
Waters has his own,
Yeah,
yes.
for his fire academy to keep it, so,
We're
Okay,
borrowing
so that's
that right now.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, so.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal,
That's
because the cat, you know, their backpacks are in a fire, and it's one of those deals, hey, they run out of air, they go back out, whether it's a grass fire, whatever. And go right there, has a little lid, looks up, put the canister in, the air tank. Close it, fills it up, pull it out, and you go back to work.
Thank you, Chief. I have another question. You requested a Ford F-150 pickup as well as in the, at the fire department and Ford F-250.
Yes.
Can we get one vehicle that can do both?
Yes, and then that would be I think it would be more important to get the 250 for the fire department.
But you can also use it,
And I got a different price on that too. So,
but you can also use it as a police vehicle, right? I mean, it's just gonna sit there until you respond, use it to respond.
yeah,
To a
we
scene.
could use it if we need to use it, yes.
Okay.
But
Just
it
trying
depends
to-
on what they put in there. Yeah. The one thing I like about it is you hook up the trailer with 250 gas, it's not expensive, and use our tank, our small tank, because to get into the walking trail, if there's a fire. Right now, our big fire trucks unable to do that. Right now, we're utilizing the Hummer, which is, you know, those diesels are tricky if they're not ran all the time, and to hitch up the big tank, we have it in a trailer, the big tank with a pump, start it up to get in there. With the truck, we can put one in the truck and get in there, or we could use it to cut across, it could, you know, if something happens on someone on the golf course, would fall over with the medical equipment, their tables to carry them out.
Thank you, Chief.
Backboards, not tables.
Yeah, thank you.
The chief,
Oh, sorry, Mr.
That's
Gonzalez
okay.
has a question. I'm
oh
sorry.
yeah, I was, are we up to speed with all our fire truck, or water pump and all that?
Yes,
A pumper and all that, everything's up to speed.
everything.
Because I know
is-
that was also in process.
And we're going over it every year now, because remember, I don't know, some of y'all were here, we didn't get the EBT test for like 14 years. So now we do it every year,
yeah.
so we keep it up to speed, and we're gonna do it again this year, this spring.
Remember the hydrants, that's all.
What,
Fire hydrants?
the fire hydrants? Yeah, I thought you were talking about trucks.
No,
Fire
that too,
hydrants-
but now moving over to.
Oh, well, we'll let Mr. Messer take that, because I heard something that, he knows something about the fire hydrants that I'm unaware of.
That was a scary issue at one point.
It was
Just-
17 of them that
Yeah,
we
the
fixed them.
That's all.
Yeah. As far as I know, the fire hydrants got fixed, but now I don't know if something's come up, so he's
No,
doing.
No, I think he was just generally asking.
No, but we said Mr. Meza, something's come up.
Mr. Messer?
What?
He's asking about fire hydrants.
Oh, yes. Anthony Hollywood had asked that, when I started here, there was already a list of them working on,
Right.
$68,000 was allocated by the council. Well, he said that there's almost like 4 left that need to be done,
It's not done yet?
but they're not done.
I thought they were done.
That's what I told Mr. Messer asked me about it, and that's what I told him.
And I
I
This was
thought
2
they were
years
done,
ago.
because we went down the list, and I thought they were done. So I don't know
Please
where,
look into
I
that,
don't,
Mr.
yeah, that's what I told you, I don't
And
know.
they're
where
like
it's coming from.
6,000 each, right?
And because the money,
Because
because
we
I
already
was very
allocated
much
money.
on the money on the what was budgeted to fix the fire hydrants.
Yeah,
And then we got to get this one fixed, get this one fixed. I remember that.
And you
So-
used all the money, we used all the money.
Yeah, we used all the
That's why
money, it
it's
was
in the roll
budgeted to fix fire hydrants, and he said they were
Yeah.
fixed, so. And we haven't heard from them in how long? How long you been here now?
A year and a half.
So we haven't heard from them until what, 2 days ago?
okay. Well, yeah, please look into that.
So- That's where it's kind of weird.
Yeah, we can have that if it needs to be. Thank you, thank you, Chief. Another thing that I wanted to point out that under city secretary, there's a kiosk for payments. We saw this when we were at TML, and then Anna actually saw this separately by herself, but Mr. Mesa and I found it, and I thought it was really cool. It's a little box kiosk thingy, but I'm sorry, it's hard to explain. It's probably the size of that fridge, and you put it outside somewhere, and people can come and pay all their bills, all their permits, all their fines, all their court fines, building permits. I mean, everything can be handled by this kiosk, which would alleviate a lot of time from our staff in the city. It's electronically done, so there's receipts, it gets sent, it's a really cool system. So if you want more information on that, it's something that would really benefit us as a city. The one we looked at was like 35,000, but I know found one that's even cheaper,
Well,
so.
I saw them on, well, I need to make contact with them. Hopefully it's the same.
The same one.
Yeah.
So that's something neat that just to point out to you guys to go look into and research. Yeah, that's cool. Any other questions?
But I have something.
Yes, Mr.
And-
President.
I know I've been stressing this, but the bonuses or whatever we wanted for our staff, and I stressed the staff are dedicated, they were here, unlike other communities. Everybody has given their staff already funds, and I put a list of what they've done.
Mhm.
For this bill, someone told me 2,000 each, but I just heard that they got $4 raise and above of their raise is $4 for the year. South Hydraulic, 1,500 for each employee. Los Fresnos, 2,000. La Feria, 5,000. I'm like, what? Brownsville, 1,500. Harlingen, they gave me 2 extra paychecks. Now, I know I work with them, it's like a family, and each and every one of our employees dedicate. It's like they're living here. And it's just for the morale of it that we're the only ones, our staff has not received anything, so
Yes, because we,
that's what the example here.
yes, I hear you.
And they work hard, everybody does.
And everybody showed up during the lockdown, the freeze.
We were
you know,
here,
I know.
working, we kept the city
Thank you
running.
for pointing that out. We did not need to neglect that or just slide that under the table, and we have been meaning to talk about it. Any discussion from the council?
Yeah.
Any comments or discussion from the council? I would personally like to, we did put it on the agenda last time or the time before about an employee once off stipend for COVID and extra time and going above and beyond.
For 18 employees,
What's our total? 18, right? 18 employees.
17 years, of course, we lost.
I think the initial discussion is 1,500 per employee, and that would be a total of 25,500. Two thousand 34, I just should have meant that myself. That would be 34,000.
And that's what we have already.
The money we have already.
So I would, I don't know, I make a motion to 2,000.
It's just gonna do this and I'll second that motion. Motion on the table made by Mr. Morrow to give a once-off stipend of $2,000 to each employee of the city of Laguna Vista in accordance to the ARP money that has been recommended by the government and by many entities to support and encourage staff for their extra work and effort during the several crises that we've had so far this year, and just to congratulate and thank them for showing up for our city and being here, whether we had no electricity or you were scared because we didn't know what was going on.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Tolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Worrell,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, motion passes. Before we go on to the next item, I would like to instruct this council to please go and do your homework regarding this money, the extra money. So now we just minus 34,000. So Mr. Mesa, please take note of that.
Yes.
And then so that we can make some solid decisions in our second meeting to start. Yeah.
Where will we table this or shall I bring it back?
Yeah, we'll bring it back. Yeah, we could table it, so it'll just have to naturally come back, yeah. And but we luckily voted on this
Thank you.
part.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So,
Like I said, we've received $394,000 basically. There's a lot more money out there that's indicated it's coming this way.
When do we get it? How do we get it? How do we
They
know
said
we're gonna
get, yeah, that they're make their decisions. We're gonna get a chunk in 2022 and another chunk probably early 2023. And then we have to use it all before 2024.
we'll use it all.
Yeah, I know.
And then, okay, and do we know the amounts? The amounts that are scheduled to come in?
No, they haven't told us.
They
I
haven't
was,
told us.
when they said the 383,000, it was something that we just showed up.
It just kind of came out. of nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah. well,
And
it's
I'll
difficult-
check to see if
it's-
there's a formula they're using. But I
Yeah,
haven't seen that.
it's
I'll
just
check for
difficult
that.
to make concrete decisions
But just.
based on money that might come, and all of a sudden it's gonna show up, and like you say, we gotta use it eventually, because it's
That's what makes it difficult, right?
what we're getting, when we're getting it, makes a difference on how we should spend it.
And GrantWorks is that we approved to oversee, they're gonna be the ones doing all the representation for the city with these funds, so they'll tell us.
Well, it
and I'll
was,
ask them.
yeah, it was requested that we have somebody like that to
Yeah,
ensure. it gets
Yeah, they
done.
have to, the reports and everything, so I can find out from
Yeah,
them.
I mean, if you could indicate what we're guaranteed, when it's gonna come, then we could make some decisions on the wish list and such that could be informed.
Yes.
Good point, Mr. Worrell. Okay. Let's move on. So. G, Human Resources Project, discussion of possible action regarding the HR. project, Mr. Mason.
Yes, I had brought up, put together, it's on number 6 of the little tabs. Yeah.
Someone
that's
added
okay.
something.
And Mr. President added some information, of course, for our policies. But I went ahead and did like just what happens if an employee has an issue with another employee, it's all listed down on that page. And did you want to cover this before?
No, well, I think I would recommend that we talk about both of them together.
Okay.
I think the two, the thing that I prepared, which is in the form of an update to the existing complaint procedure that's in the personnel policy manual versus what Mr. Mesa has prepared. They're a little different and one or the other may reflect what the council wants more. And so why don't you do your piece, Ed, and then
Okay.
I can talk through mine and then.
Well, I was asked, what happens if someone has a complaint with an employee or with the city manager or with a council member, and I put these based on what we're, and I'll just read all of them. So you can- If the city secretary serves as our human resources director. If an employee has an issue with another employee, they report it to their immediate supervisor. If an employee has an issue with their supervisor or department head, they need to report it to the HR director. If an employee has an issue with the city manager, they need to report to the supervisor or department head and report to the HR director. The HR director will then communicate with the mayor or legal. If an employee has an issue with a member of the council, they need to report. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, who is the HR director?
It says there in the beginning, the city secretary serves.
Thank you.
If an employee has an issue with a member of the council, then you report to immediate supervisor. Supervisor will then communicate with city manager. And then it goes. If a supervisor or department head has an issue with another department head or supervisor, they report it to the city manager. If a supervisor or department head has an issue with their employee, They need to speak to the employee. If it does not solve the issue, then that needs to be reported to the HR director or city manager. If the supervisor or department head has an issue with the city manager, they need to inform the city manager about it. But if they are not comfortable with that, they report directly to the HR director. If a supervisor or department head has an issue with a council member, they need to report to the city manager. If the city manager has a problem with any of these groups, he has to go to HR or the mayor. And Alan, is that?
No, and that's good. And
This is very specific.
right, it's very specific. What I have prepared in here, I mean, it looks long, but really a lot of it is just a restatement of what was in the existing personnel policy manual. It breaks up the non-sexual harassment versus sexual harassment versus other types of retaliation as proper subject matter for a complaint procedure. And then it restates in a little better language the investigation methodology that the investigating personnel would employ. And that would either be our town secretary as our HR director or the city manager. Now, it does have a very generalized protocol for what happens if a complainant is, for some reason, cannot go to the designated recipient of the complaint, which initially would be the town secretary. In other words, if the complaint were against the town secretary, then the town secretary shouldn't be the appropriate recipient of that complaint or investigator of that complaint. By the same token, if the complaint is against the city manager shouldn't be weighing in on whether or not that complaint has merit. And so there are some generalized protocols that state what happens in that instance, not in as detailed a way as what Mr. Mesa has prepared. Let me find them for you. They're in section 5, which is the second to the last page of the handout. And again, it's very generalized, very simple. It's in the third paragraph there. If there is a reason why the complainant cannot raise a complaint with the town secretary, for example, if the complaint is against the town secretary, a complainant is authorized by the policy to raise a complaint with the town manager directly. If there is a reason why the complainant cannot raise a complaint with the town manager, then the complainant may make a complaint to the town mayor. Now, this again captures in a very general way, very abbreviated way, what we're conveying here with this longer list. I don't have like a legal recommendation that one is better than the other. I think the town council can't go wrong with whatever protocol it would like to insert in here. I do want to say a couple of things about some of these items on the list and make a recommendation. Again, this is not to detract from anything you've done here. To me, a good complaint policy and complaint procedure that deals with the kind of things that we need to have in place to provide an avenue for employees to be able to raise these complaints with management. They should follow a couple of principles. One of them is that employees should adhere to a chain of command unless there's a very good reason why that's not appropriate. And two is that complaints should go up the chain of command. There are a couple of items in here that I think run the risk of a complaint going down the chain of command, which is just a recommendation on those kinds of issues shouldn't be handled through your complaint procedure. They should be handled through the normal disciplinary process. In other words, if a subordinate employee somehow harasses or retaliates against a supervisory employee, the supervisory employee doesn't need relief from administration or from the town council for that situation. The supervisory employee has the direct ability to impose corrective action against the subordinate employee. So the one bullet point here where I think it says if a supervisory or department head has an issue with their employee, they need to speak to the employee, which is correct. If this does not solve the issue, then it needs to be reported to the HR director, city manager. I think that's correct, not in the sense that it should be the subject of a harassment complaint, but in the sense that the supervisor is trying to correct the action with his or her the subordinate employee, not getting anywhere. So then he goes to the city manager and says, I can't work with this employee any longer. We need to do something disciplinary wise. And so then Ed would then have the final authority under the charter to impose disciplinary action. So it's not so much a complaint, it's just a disciplinary action, which is handled under a different part of the policy. And then the last bullet point here, that if the city manager has a problem with any of these groups, he has to go to HR or the mayor. That's not necessarily always going to be a downward chain of command action. If the city manager has a problem with a subordinate employee, which is every employee in the town, then he can take action against that as a disciplinary measure. There may be situations where you could have a city manager who is subject of retaliation or harassment from the only people in the town capable of making supervisory decisions over him, and that would be members of the town council. That's a very special situation, and we probably need to address it in a complaint procedure, but that's the kind of investigation that's probably going to be handled directly by me. I mean, it's a very specialized issue that you know, is really has a low likelihood of ever coming up, but it's not going to be dealt with in the model. The rest of the items on here are basically just basic complaints that will go to the designated person, or they're the kind of complaints that warrant a skipping or jumping of the chain of command to someone at the next higher level because it's inappropriate to raise the initial complaint with the designated recipient. Now, another difference between what Mr. Mesa has prepared and what I've prepared here is that it follows the principle I talked about complaints needing to go up the chain of command, and that it has employees complaining first to their immediate supervisors. Now that in a larger organization is what you normally see in this kind of policy. In an organization the size of the town of Laguna Vista, I'm not sure that it would be as necessary or as productive. I think we have employees who are considered supervisory employees who probably wouldn't know what to do with a like a sexual harassment. Like they would probably be referring that to you and or to you anyway. And so I think we have an opportunity here to cut out the middleman in that sense without necessarily running afoul of the chain of command policy that I'm talking about. I like the idea of a designated intake personnel or intake person. In this case, it would be city secretary who we're designating as the HR director. If we ever are in a position to get a dedicated HR director as a separate position, then you know that person can take over those duties. But I think that it's probably more practical that we have basically anyone with a complaint that would fall under this procedure, you know, sexual harassment, other forms of harassment, or any kind of retaliation or discrimination, that would then go to one designated intake person, which would be the town secretary. And then the town secretary would then, in consultation with town management and possibly me, and probably in most cases me as well, then I would then advise administration how to do the investigation. You know, well, who needs to do it? It might, and this policy revision that I prepared here indicates it could be, you know, it could be the town secretary, it could be the manager. We could refer to the police department. It could be referred to me or some outside investigator, just depending on the circumstance. We don't need to lock that down in the policy. That should be fluid. Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm just gonna ask, so are you recommending we add this into that?
Well, if the council likes the level of detail, the advantage, there are advantages to having a level of detail in that an employee reading this would
Clearly explain.
would know that there is a downside to that too, and that we're never going to be able to cover every possible conceivable situation where someone might. And that's why just my personal style is to have a more generalized thing. But that, again, that's not really legal advice. Where I'm telling you.
Can we have this and this?
We can. Basically, I would just drop the specific elements from this protocol into the complaint procedure, which is section 5. I mean, we could approve that as a modification to the existing policy. I do recommend that whatever we adopt, it be a component of our personnel policy manual, as opposed to a standalone document, so that every employee would get it and know what it is.
Yeah, because that's.
This has been, I'm sorry.
No. you don't.
This has been written to drop directly into and replace this section.
Yes, in fact, it still maintains the chapter number that the current harassment and complaint procedure has in our existing policy.
And there's,
This would basically replace chapter.
right. And with your section 5, you're gonna end up with the same situation. I'm an advocate of the KISS principle, and it's simple, stupid.
Oh.
And,
Yes.
so So really, if we're gonna achieve the same thing with this document without going into this level of detail, I would make a motion to just insert this into our personnel policy. So that's a motion.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Morrow, second by Ms. Howard to adopt chapter 9 as is. Mr. Morrow, am I hearing you correct? To adopt.
Yeah, just replace the chapter in our personnel policy right now
With
with
this.
this.
Motion on the floor made by Mr. Morrow, seconded by Ms. Howard. Member Howard?
Question. Could they utilize this for a more easier way of understanding
Well,
or no?
it's not something I would recommend. I
Or could
wouldn't,
you-
I wouldn't want two documents.
Or
out
could you
there.
draft something that they could understand, or just like a hand, like, this is what it is, but here's the layman? Yeah,
Well,
Chapter 5 is kind of
Yeah.
done.
okay.
I mean, I could do that if that was what the council acted on, or we've got a motion pending right now if that
So
should
from what I
fail.
understand, we have a motion on the floor,
Sure.
but from what I understand, this is a summary. Section 5 is a summary of this.
It covers all these situations without going into detail
Too
about.
much
what the
detail.
employee should be. And I'm not saying it's too much detail. I mean, this is certainly a stylistic choice that the council could make.
Sure.
The current motion is for the more simplified version.
Okay, so there's a motion on
But
the
you
floor.
seconded it, so if you're not comfortable, you
No, I was just gonna ask.
Okay, motion on the floor by Mr. Worrell, second by Ms. Gonzalez, by Ms. Howard to adopt chapter 9 and replace it with our the current staff anti-harassment policy and complaint procedure, sorry.
I did change the title. It used to
No, yeah,
just
that's
say
fine.
sexual harassment, I think, but now it says
Yeah.
anti, it
And
covers all
compla-
types of
It
harassment.
adds complaint procedure, which
And
is
complaint.
important,
That's what we're.
yeah.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Tolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Worrell,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Item H, PD salary increases, discussion and possible action on salary increase for the police department. I brought this to the table because it has come to my attention that we are falling behind again. About 7 years ago, when I joined the council, it's one of the first things I've noticed that, gosh, I think at that point, our starting salary was $25,000, which is it's a disgusting. I'm just pulling up my notes. Anyway, so I looked up. So our average salary right now is 42,000, give and take, this and that. Our starting salary is 35,000, right, Chief?
32,000, 6 months probation, then it goes to 35,000.
Yes. So our average, plus the chiefs and our average police salary right now is about 42,000. The national average is 67,600. The Texas average is 63,740. Mississippi comes in lowest of all states at an average of 36,290. So my point is with that, as a city, we are on the very lower end. Which I am, number one, not okay with. I'm always willing to support our officers in the work they do. Number one. Number two, we put out for a new officer and it took 3-4 weeks for anybody to apply for that position.
Yes, ma'am.
And what part of that reason is because we're out competed with all our cities surrounding us. Everybody around us pays better than we do at this point. We are at $16 an hour, más o menos. Most cities are at 17, 18, or 19 right around us. So I was just wanting to bring that to your attention, and regardless of what we do with the EMT training, I think this issue needs to be addressed to retain our officers, to attract new officers when needs be, and to reward these guys and ladies, if we have one day, that for this hard work that they do and this dangerous work that they do serving their community. Any discussion? Mr.
And that was, yeah, I agree with you 100%. My understanding is that a starting salary of closer to 42 would be along the lines of what communities our size in this area are doing, which would mean a 20% increase. And if we're gonna give a 20% increase to a starting salary, I think we need to give it across the board.
To all the staff, you're saying?
To all, no, to all the police departments.
Yes,
The
that's
entire
of
police
course.
department.
The
So the
entire
police,
police
yeah,
department.
the police department, and that would be my suggestion. That's the argument I would make, is that we should give the police department a 20% increase to get us up to paying the appropriate amount of money so that we're competitive in the community. And which just happens to be the $7,000 that was in the other number. That's why I kept referring to this every time we talked about that $7,000 was because I want to do it anyway.
Well, yeah, well, when they're trained better, then of course we want to address that again, because
If
that
we-
is,
if we decide,
that's,
yes, we decide to go that route, the retention thing.
that's the officers around us without extra training.
But I think in order to be competitive, if our community can afford it, we should just give the PD a 20% increase across the board. Of course, we can't include the chief into that because that would go against the charter. If we make more money than Mr. Massa at that point, we can get it closer.
Yes. Any other thoughts or discussions?
And I apologize that I missed our budget meetings because I was out of town, but when y'all did the budget discussions, did this come up? And if
No.
so,
We actually honestly kind of missed it. Not missed it, we gave salary increases.
Right.
And across the board for all our staff, but it's just recently come to my attention how behind we are compared to.
Oh, yeah, no,
We
we
were,
are.
the chief was trying to find a new employee and he said
Yeah.
nobody's applied, and I'm like, why not? And I said, well, honestly, Mayor, because.
yeah, no, it needs
That
to be
was the
done. I'm
reason.
just trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
bad.
So,
like,
and
how
I'm
we're gonna do
embarrassed
this
to say that,
financially. Yeah,
but-
so do we think this money's gonna come from, like, what's gonna be the impact to us financially if we do this? It needs to be done, so I
Well,
guess it'll come from the monies we were just discussing, right?
well, it can initially, but this will be an
It
annual.
can, it's a legitimate, I
This will
mean,
be an annual.
it is. We just need to think about, we just need
It's
to
gonna be
think about the
competitive with
long, the long-term
long-term,
impact of what we're doing.
Where we're gonna
Because
get it.
I think Amy's
So-
gonna argue that it has to be done,
For it, but
has to be done. We just
So,
have to-
Mr. Morrow, you were talking about 20%
Mhm.
across the board for all the police officers, so
Mhm.
we're at.
I was just looking at that.
So at 35, that would, yeah, it's exactly $7,000 actually, which would bring the starting salary to 42,000,
Right, which is
which adds
pretty much what it should be in the
$7,000.
community.
So that's 7,000 times 8, excluding the chief, correct? You're 9 guys without you. I mean, with you, you're 9.
Yeah, we're moving on, we're 8 with
So that adds $56,000 to our annual budget.
Well-
That's just a ballpark because some officers are,
20%, I took it off of
The lowest
the budget numbers, and 20% for everybody.
What
not
number are you
including
using?
Tony is $62,883.
What number are you using?
The number on.
385,
this budget
286?
worksheet, yeah, the 385. Yeah, 385, 285. 20% of that is 62,830.
because they're
42.
staggered, they're not all at 35 right now.
Yeah.
Some of them are, commander is higher, or Mr. Cruz is higher because Officer Cruz, because they've been here longer and so on and so forth.
And then if we wanted to give Tony a 10%, which would keep him below.
At 79.
Yeah, it would be 78,000 and change, so the total there, the total of the entire budget at that point would be 455.
455.
As opposed
For a
to
total of-
385, 285.
So that's a total of 69,000? What was the total
62
plus the, what's the
plus-
difference for chief?
plus Tony, I didn't like Tony down separately, I just added it in.
Oh, right here.
No, that's fine.
Oh,
Right.
10% would be 7.
It's 385, 286. That's 2021 budget.
So what's the total there, the annual monthly,
you also
the
have to
annual
remember
total?
the new guys.
The total, the total,
What
if
is that?
you give Tony 10 and everybody else 20 is
Oh, but
455,
here, look, right
228,
here.
is what I have written down here. I don't have my calculator. in
Oh,
front of
that's
me.
not the difference. Okay, I see what you're saying.
No, that's
The
the
total.
385,
Mayor.
285.
Chief,
Ms. Rowe,
I appreciate it. I'm good.
You say that, you said that since I've been here, I'm just gonna, I'm
he's
just
right,
gonna,
Chief.
I'm just.
He's right.
No, because
I'm
y'all,
just gonna-
y'all forget something. Y'all forget something. When I didn't want to be sitting in his chair, Mr. Mess's chair, y'all let me keep. that money. So I am
Yes.
good.
I understand, thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
if,
Guys.
if
We'll
that's
listen
the
to you.
case,
Thank
then
you,
the new budget would be 448, 128.
And that's
Well,
including the new employee.
But one of the things we have to check though, and Chief, you can answer this, is we have to be careful on just adding 20% to the original staffing, because I think the new officer, and I don't know, but you can answer this. Is he going to be paid the same amount or more than Officer LeBlanc was? Like, we can't just go off of that pay, right?
Well, our starting pay, we go from the start.
I'm unsure.
Why?
It will
It
be
could be
close.
more, right?
It will be close. It
Do you
will
see
be
what I'm saying?
close.
No, I don't see what you're saying. Why do you bring Officer LeBlanc? What do you mean? about that?
Because,
Was- was
because
allocated in
that's
there.
what he was allocated at his salary
Oh,
on the
okay.
budget.
I see
So
what
if
you're
he's
saying.
doing a straight 20% off of what was allocated, it might not be, it
Well,
might
I
be
see what you're saying.
$10,000
the,
more.
the, the new
because-
guy, would be starting at 35 after the 6 months. You've got Officer LeBlanc here at 36,717.
So it's
So
below
if you
me.
went, if you did all our policies the way they are, 20% up, it's gonna be real close to this number. Or just slightly less because Officer LeBlanc was established and making slightly more money than a new hire.
Well, all I'm saying is, we don't know that because we don't know who this gentleman is. I don't, maybe he's older, more experienced, maybe he's gonna make more money. I don't know.
He could be,
Is
he
he-
could be older, more experienced, but he's gonna start at.
Is he, okay, I didn't know, I just didn't want to presume that
Just
for
because he has,
purposes of the,
just because he has 20 years experience, which is an individual looking at. We're
and
gonna
I
do
don't,
it.
and I didn't know, I don't know who this person is, but I just wanted to make sure that we weren't just presuming a wrong
We're
number.
gonna start it.
Any other discussion? So the discussion is right now to 20% for all the officer,
Right.
and then for all the
My concern
officers.
is, can we afford it? I think that's what we should do. Can we?
We need to look at the future. I mean, I support that 100%, but this money that we're getting, we're not gonna be getting that every year. Because we haven't seen,
No.
we're allocating how much we're gonna be getting in.
Well, this
I
year,
support it, I understand, but it's just,
mm,
and we're gonna get it.
this year before we got any of this money, we were in the black quite a bit. We had like $80,000-$90,000, if I remember. I could be wrong with the exact number. Chief is shaking his head, yes. We were, before we got any money, we were in the black by a good 80,000-90,000. So I'm just saying, this is not just a decision we're making. Oh, let's just throw this out there. I think.
64,871,
We have the money,
yeah, budget summary. The balance.
yeah.
And that for this year, that's what you're reading, right?
Budget
That was because of the 187,000, which was CARES Act. We're not gonna be getting that
Yeah.
unless there's another crisis.
Yeah, that was COVID.
That's why we got that money.
Should we maybe consider 15%? That is, so even the 20% will put us above.
Yeah.
With and above some of the.
Well, it would be, we'd be pretty, okay.
I'm just thinking of,
I think our starting salary at 42 would be pretty, some of the other communities funded, comparable.
Comparable community to ours is Rancho Cucamonga. They start out at 42. Our problem is when we were looking to hire, I know this because when we were hiring an officer, I looked at theirs, it was 42. Fort Isabel Clay started out at 41. And when our officers left over there, told me how much, that's individual told me how much we was getting paid. And so that's what we're looking at. The comparable community is 42, which is Rancho Cucamonga. Start out. And part of the problem is when they've had a shortage of file officers in Fort Isabel, and it's my understanding they decided to advertise for the position. So then you got Rancho filling a position. Hunter Island filling a position, so
we got this, we're just
Yeah, we're way below.
20%.
Yeah. Well, if I personally would find ways to cut the budget in other ways to make it work. This is important. This is crucial. This is important stuff. There's many little things you can cut out of the budget that I can think of that if we can make this work. I believe we can make this work for sure. And
Well, there's gonna be money for the next year or two.
Yeah.
You know, what
And, you know, if we look at the growth that our city is going into this new development, the tax base will increase greatly. I don't think we're gonna make, I don't think this decision is flighty, last minute, just off of our, because we feel like a decision. This is a well thought out. I've thought about this long and hard. I'm sure you did your math too, Mr. Wall. This is not just something we're lightly considering. I want to retain our officers. They're wonderful people. I want to not lose any one of them to another city around us because we can't pay them enough. I think we can make this happen. So I'll make a motion to increase our police salaries by 20% and to increase the chief salary. What did you say, 10%? 10%. Motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor made by the mayor, seconded by Ms. Tolan.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Tolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilmember Worrell,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Excuse me, allergies. Motion passes. Chief, did you see how we just ignored you? Did you notice how we just ignored you? Okay, Mr. Mesa, city
Yes.
manager report.
Yes, I'm gonna put some of them together. Scheduling workshop for overlay for Highway 100 and 510, Farm Market 510. We already started scheduling the meetings for the committee meetings, and I'm gonna be presenting it, part of that to them. And we're gonna come up with a schedule for when they meet. So I think we could include more people within that discussion with not only the overlay, but with also the parks plan.
Yes, there's
And
many
that
people
would be
that can
great. We'd be-
greatly improve.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be sending out a schedule of all the committee, days that they're gonna be having the meeting so they can prepare before time. There'll be, sometimes we don't have a quorum and what have you, and like the board of adjustments and the planning and zoning, a lot of times they're based on when we have any type of class or whatever, but we want to include them in the discussion because they're gonna be approving that in the long run. So that's what we're gonna be with the workshop. The parks plan, I sent a copy it was about 3 weeks ago to the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they're gonna look over it to see what we need to do. If I need to add stuff or delete stuff, what have you, they're the ones that actually approve it or disapprove it. So they have a policy which you can send them beforehand. Still working on the maps because I'm working with a lot of crews on the maps to show where the parks are now and future parks. And then we can have discussion about if anyone has any idea of any other future parks, areas that we have in our community. Let's see. Real quick, I'm gonna, the cost of the storage building, we got one from, that's a 40 by 80. Has a area to put different, the cages to put all your different departments to put their items in there. They came out to 169,000. But I was saying that right now we're currently paying $810 a month for our storage. And that comes out to, was it 97, not 97, 9,720 a year, right? So we're thinking, we've been paying that 10 years. So far we've paid 97,200. And we want to get something that's more, smaller. I know that I got some other prices, basic from 12,000 to about 35,000 for smaller, but it's just a basic
Storage unit.
It's not, air conditioned, or it has a cement bottom and everything like that, and it's insulated on the top. But so we just have to get the one I'll present, a more thorough report on that to what type and what size we want.
Okay.
Let's see, update on the building inspector. I haven't had any one, and we put it out in the newspaper and Facebook.
I don't know. We haven't had any hits, not one.
Yeah, so we're gonna,
Have you advertised on DMO?
TML, have we done that yet?
I'm gonna do this.
You're gonna do it, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, let's.
And then the papers, maybe the newspaper, Valley Morning Star, there's had to be people in, or hopefully some of them. And then we did hire a Public Works, they're replacing our.
Parks are
person.
looking great.
Sorry?
Parks are looking good. I can see it.
Yes. And then, let's see, so the presentation on the Texas Smart Buy program. Mary, you met the person over there at TML, and we were part of this program. It's called the Texas Smart Buy. It's almost like a co-op. And they have a list of like, if you're gonna go out for bids for anything, furniture, office supplies, vaccines, medical equipment.
Police department equipment.
Police, yeah, police
Flights,
department,
hotels.
mailroom supplies, print shops, contractor temporary personnel services, hotels, libraries, set up and book supplies, cafeteria food. We're talking about that. But it's a wonderful program. So we compared it's called the trash pumps, which were actually the water pumps. And we had allocated, there was one that was 3 inches, only $3,200. And only 2 inches is gonna be like 2,700. When we got through this, we said we could get one for $1,480, which just saves a lot of money. So hopefully we can get that done with other projects that we need within the community.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna just add to this, it's $100 a year,
yeah.
this membership. It somehow, it expired in 2016,
Yeah.
the city, but just by buying this pump, we would already get that $100 back.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it saved us almost $1,500. For example, they said the flights, remember how much it cost to go to TML? And we were trying, the flights, hotel rooms were $216 a night, and they said, through this, our hotels would have been $112. And the same hotel room. So it's for all this equipment, everything we're looking for, this program, it's a state-funded program.
Yes.
That is just, it's a wonderful thing, I think. It's just $100 for us, so,
They do the work for bidding. Sometimes if they have it.
yeah, they will bid for you for projects. It's really cool. I'm glad we found them again. So good job on pursuing that, Mr. Mason.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. I mean, also going back to the building inspector, there was one gentleman, right? That he did show, but he's.
He was the previous city
Yeah.
inspector for city of Brownsville, but he's been retired for, I want to say 2 years, he said. So his certifications, he didn't keep them up. So he's asking if we would give him a year's time to get his certifications renewed. But I don't know if he can be doing the work
I
without
know.
the certifications. That's
I don't
something I
think
need
so,
to
yeah.
ask Jay.
Perhaps ask Jay. But once we put it
You apply for a
TML,
job, you need to be certified, you know,
Yeah.
so if
we'll
you find somebody better, I
put
don't
on-
think that's something we can
Yeah.
guarantee.
we'll put on TML and then Valley Morning Star and monitor. And hopefully we'll get some.
Yeah.
If you know anyone,
Yeah, I mean, he needs to pursue his certifications, and if he wants to reapply and with his sole position, by all means, but that's not something I think we can guarantee, you know. Unfortunately.
It's liability.
yes.
Anything else, Mr. Mason?
Any questions?
Any questions from Mr. Mason?
It's not really a question, the festival this past week.
Amazing.
Good job.
Yeah, I was
All the
not able to
staff.
stay, but the food was great, and it seemed like. it was
Aren't
a
they
lot of-
just getting better
It's
and
just
better and
awesome.
better? It's really great. You guys
Yeah.
are doing a great.
So many
And
people.
people are,
It's super
I
fun.
know.
Just
So fun.
I was there early, there's people there already.
oh, yeah.
1,000 people. It was amazing.
It
And
was
vendors
amazing.
are
You
already-
guys did a fantastic job.
Right, they're already,
They're wanting to come back next year.
They're
Dave
ready
and-
For December.
On December 3rd.
Good job. Good job, you guys. You're doing it really.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
We got a lot of,
7/3, our flyer for we'll be sending this to you.
yeah, remember, we need to put that on because our meeting will be after that, so put that on your schedules.
And then
No,
for
thank you, Anna.
Thursday,
That's really great.
on Thursday, we're having our
Our Veterans Day on
Thursday,
Thursday.
we have the program already.
It's at 5:30 at Veterans Park.
Mr.
Mr. Warren is playing the drums.
Are you kidding?
I was like, wow.
He's got another thing up his sleeve.
He's like,
Mr.
Mason?
Really? Play the drum.
Oh, yeah, I'm still working on the 811 to get the poles cleared. And we're gonna have the the highway poles. And
Nice,
they're gonna be donating it.
nice, wow, yeah, I think
We'll just
that's.
have to get the.
Mr. Mesa, thank you. I've noticed that you paid heed to everything we pointed out to you at the
Yes, thank
previous
you, sir.
meeting. And, I mean, so far it seems like everything was done, you know, the meetings, the HR meetings, the staff meetings, the getting the quarterly board meetings going.
Our staff.
Good job,
Been
thank
really great.
Good, that's great. Glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Motion for adjournment,
Second.
motion by Mayor,
That was so.
seconded by Mr. William.
So
Anna?
synchronized.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Dolan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez, Councilmember Worrell,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
You almost said it the
Motion
same
passes.
way.
We are adjourned.
Second.
Yeah.
That is-
Thank you, Mayor and council members for entertaining such a long discussion.
Oh my gosh.
No, that was perfect. We've been wanting to do that. You did a great job.
Okay.
So this. Yeah.
I speak with my face apparently.
I sent it to you.
I speak with my face. My kids tell me, "Oh, watch your face," because I was.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm kind of just like thinking about it. And so like told me in the moment. R, what did I call it? RBA. I call it RBA. You know what that is?
I know.
No, you were just
No, I for sure, I think, people tell me that's.
I don't think so. I know the look. You still have your question.
Well, thank you.
Oh, Mr. Meza.
Okay.
No, no, that's it.
As far as the- the-